Hello, you wonderful art literacy parents. So we are to our big project for this year, which every year we're able to do these Canvas boards. And I think it's really a great thing because a lot of the students don't get a chance to work with professional type art products, which professional artists use canvas boards and acrylic paints. And so this is really a fun thing for them. And I like to point that out to them so that sometimes you kind of need to lead students to appreciate what they're doing, right? They're not necessarily going to look at this and go, this is not something I normally see. I don't normally use a canvas. So I just mention to them, I just say, I'm really excited for this. This canvas board is something that professional artists use. My master artist that I'm studying with right now uses canvas board because it's very versatile. Not always, it's not the best for every painting, but he does use canvas board and he is a very successful, one of the top 10 portrait artists in the world. So this is a great thing. Take this home, take care of it. You can frame this in a ready-made frame. You can get a frame at the dollar store or at, Michael's or whatever, and put your painting in a frame and hang it up in your house. That's such an awesome thing. So just let them know it's a good thing. And then also in the beginning, I always go over brush technique because it is something they always need a little help with. So I will tell them, here is our brush. Sorry, I'm just opening up my paint really quick. Here is our brush. And our brush can only use this very top tippy part to put paint on the canvas. If we dip our brush in all the way up to here, all of this paint is just wasted. It can't do anything. There's no way to get that on our canvas unless we lay it down on the side and put it on. So when we use our brush, we want to be nice to them because they're kind of fragile. I always give my brush a drink. Very first thing, I'm gonna give my brush some water. And you can tap it off on the side if you don't want your water to be watercolory, which in this case we don't really. And then I'm gonna dip my brush into the paint, and that's really all I'm gonna give it. That's all it can use. And then the other thing that I'll remind the kids, and I really talk this way even with the 6th graders, and they seem to respond well to it, is, brushes are thirsty. They need drinks of water pretty often. With this style of painting, it'll be pretty easy to keep that in mind because we're dabbing rather than painting with paint strokes. So let's take a look at Georges Seurat's work. He is an amazing artist. He created this painting, this Sunday Afternoon on Le Grand Jatte, was the most famous painting of the 1880s. Even in the time, it was hugely popular. Actually, when it was first exhibited, just a little side note, interesting tidbit, this painting is 10 feet long. So when it was first exhibited at the Paris Salon, it was it's really crowded and people tried to view it up close. And so they saw it as being really messy. They really didn't see the cohesiveness of it. And then as things kind of settled down, people went, initially it was like, oh, it's messy, it's not very good. And then people were able to go, oh, but if you stand 30 feet back from this, or if you stand 20 feet back from this, you're gonna see this amazing painting. And it has, his paintings have a real luminosity to them. And that is because he used science to paint. He was a mathematician and a scientist as well as an artist. And by putting the dots of color close together, by using primary colors and secondary colors close together, instead of mixing colors to make what he wanted, he creates this really interesting higher depth his paintings just have a luminous quality to them because instead of shading, he is using complementary colors to counterbalance each other. And complementary colors combine to make a bluish gray or a brownish gray, but they also intensify each other when they're next to each other. And that's what gives his painting such a unique feel. Really an amazing guy, and amazing that his career was so short. He really only worked for a little over a decade. He went to school, he went to the Beaux-Arts Academy when he was 16, and actually ended up leaving because he didn't like the rigorous academic style of teaching. Which that is currently what I'm doing, and I can relate. It is really tedious. But he ended up leaving and studying on his own, and then he died at age 31. They think of pneumonia or meningitis. They're not positive, but So really short career, but some really amazing work in that time. And really, he was a fairly average upper class guy. He had a wealthy family. He was close to his brother and his sister and his mom. His dad, traveled a lot, so he didn't really see him much. But just, a happy, pretty normal, nothing too crazy like a lot of the artists from this time had. However, the one thing is this actually is a picture of his mistress or his girlfriend, Madeline Knobloch, I think, Knobloch. And she was a working class woman. Models, that's definitely not a higher reputable position. It was actually a lot of times it was prostitutes who would model for the artists. So I couldn't really find much detail on her, but I do know that he kept his relationship with her a secret from his family and his friends. He didn't feel like they would really approve of her. So he did live with her, and they had a son a year before he died. But not, otherwise, she really isn't in much of his writings, and it was known that his family wasn't really aware of her, which is kind of sad but interesting. Here you can see this Eiffel Tower is a lot looser than the Sunday on Le Grand Chat. So you can really see those paint marks. He called them points. So Pointallism is the name of his movement, and he called each brushstroke a point. But you can see the work, since it's a little bit looser, you can kind of see the details of the work a little bit better, and it's kind of interesting. One thing I do like to do with the students for sure is give them a chance to take a look at his paintings and see if they can really relate to them. So coming back to this most famous one, I would say something along the lines of, the clothing is definitely different, right? Moms don't walk around in dresses with bustles anymore. We don't carry parasols to shield us from the sun. But have you ever seen a scene like this? Maybe you weren't in a park in Paris, maybe you were at Liberty Park or Murray Park. Have you seen people out enjoying the sunshine, laying on the grass, maybe having a picnic out with their dog? Yeah, this is something that we all see. And that was really important to Seurat. He wanted to capture images that he felt were enduring. That's what he said, enduring images of domestic life. So things that existed before him and would continue to exist after him, which I think is really beautiful. So this one is kind of interesting because this is a return later in his career to this same park. You can see it's a slightly different vantage point. You're focused more on the river, but you can see how his brush strokes loosened up quite a bit. It's more relaxed. It's a little bit more light and airy. Just kind of an interesting thing to see his work side by side. This was his last painting, The Circus, and it's actually unfinished, but you can see it does have that same level of detail that Sunday Afternoon has, right? I mean, really impressive. And just looking at, it's great. In the white of the horse or the clown's neck, you can really see how he used that pointillism to shade the blues and the yellows together to make those areas, to give those areas like depth and to turn the surface, which is really amazing. All right, and then also with our pictures, I've included a color wheel. And so we can explain to the kids, complementary colors are pairings that are across from each other on the color wheel. So, yellow and purple, red and green, which are Christmas colors, right? But red and green look really great together. That's why they made such good Christmas colors. Then you can also talk about triadic colors if you want to, especially with the older kids. I wouldn't really worry about it with the younger kids. But triadic colors also work very well together. And then analogous colors are the ones that are right next to each other on the color wheel, and they harmonize really well. So they're also called harmonic colors sometimes. So we're going to start our own project here. You can see on my board, I've kept it pretty simple. I decided to just do some flowers, and I'm going to get maybe kind of interesting with my background. We'll see. I've drawn in what I want, my stock of flowers here. And then I'm just going to take my paints and let's see, we'll a little bit of flower stuff together here. So you can show the kids, I'll leave one unfinished, just barely finished, and you can kind of just throw in a few points and show them what we're doing. Don't fill it completely in. Let's leave it, like, just throw in like 2 points to show them if you feel strongly about showing while you're there. And then that leaves the canvas open for other classes. The canvas boards are a little bit more expensive. I mean, they're not, when we're dealing with 520 students for the school. So, sorry about the dog. Each student can have one. And I know there are always 1 or 2 kids in a class that need to start again a couple of times. And what I just tell them is the great thing about paint is you can always paint over it. So just grab one of the napkins, wipe it off, and paint over the top, and nobody will ever be able to tell. So here on my flower, I'm gonna put some points of coral. And ideally, you kind of give them a minute to dry in between. So I would go around and fill in this whole section where I want of the coral. But on the top here, I'm gonna mix in some yellow with it to give it kind of a highlight. Oh, he is really going for it, I'm sorry. So you can see how those will blend together. And then I will have a finished copy also on the art cart. But this one, if you want to, show it as a work in progress. And then if you don't really care about it, don't worry about it. But I know some of you parents do awesome examples. It's so great. But just where we're trying to keep to our budget with those canvas boards, I'm going to encourage you to just stick to this one with me. If you have any other questions or need anything at all, of course, don't hesitate. Email, call, text me, whatever works for you. And I hope you have a great March. Thanks so much.